Good evening, everyone. June 4th. Started. So I'd like of Harrison School.
Yes. Williams,
Here.
Frazier, Will Sell, Sam Robinson,
Here.
Emily.
Here. They will be missed. So we're moving on. Item 1.2, it is the Pledge of Allegiance. Mission statement is to graduate college and career-ready students with the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and behaviors to personally succeed and contribute to the. On to item point 1, need a motion to.
Madam President, I move to approve agenda as stated.
Second.
Motion to approve the agenda stated by Mr. Williams, second by Frazier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Call to order. Forward to item 3, it is communicating with the board. Item 3.1, it is the James Irwin presentation. So at this time, we would like.
Oh,
There it is.
it's got to be green.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Council, board, thank you very much for the time. It's good to see you. I don't think we did this last year, so I think we missed one. I was trying to figure out what we missed. Are you?
Yeah.
Then I'll talk really, really slow. Oh, okay.
Could you introduce us?
I
your
will, yes,
name?
I was just pressing. This thing. Oh, okay. Yes. So I am Rob Doherty. I am the CEO of James Irwin Charter Schools. I have been with James Irwin since 2006-07 school year. Started as a math teacher and was honored to take over as CEO the day that we entered COVID, and learned a lot. And I'm joined today by Mr. Gregory Schwartz, our board president, and we were going to have our chief academic officer join us, Carrie Reed, but her daughter had some important events happening tonight, and so she didn't join us, but I wanted to introduce her. I don't think I've had her here before. So thank you. All right. So I'll begin with just the academic excellence. Really, this whole report's just about bragging. So at the end, if you have questions, I certainly entertain anything that we haven't included. This past year, we had 18 students that earned College Board Recognition Program awards. We once again received outstanding AP results, which exceeded national averages. 16 of our students earned AP Scholar with honor, or AP Scholar with distinction recognition, which was absolutely phenomenal. And we're very, very proud of at the high school level. Additionally, this current year, we had one Daniels Scholar, Michael Augustus. He'll be attending Georgetown University in the fall of 2026, which is really impressive. And since we didn't meet last year we had 3 Daniels Scholars all in 1 year, which, when for a graduating class of like 85 students is a lot. It's a pretty high percentage. And so really I'm very proud of what we're seeing with the leadership at the high school. um, the it really built a culture and a team that is focused on character and on academic excellence in ways that that kind of fell apart during COVID, and they found a way to bring that all back together. Something else that we've done, and let me try to skip one. I think I didn't mean to push the button. Okay. Something that we added this year, which is unique, is something that we call community and conversation events. So what we do is we invite the community to come to the school. Typically on a Saturday morning, we provide breakfast. It's usually a shot in the dark as to whether we bring enough for 10 or for 50. So I always cook for 200 just in case. And it gets me in trouble with my wife quite a bit. But these events are designed to get not just our families in, but any community members to come in, just find out, what are we doing? We talk about things like mental health, what's going on in the world of mental health. We have experts that come in and talk about school safety, talk about internet safety and things like this that maybe parents aren't getting. It's timing. I see that. It means I got to hurry, doesn't it? That's what that means. Yeah, it's just, it must be on a timer. I must be on a timer there. So, and so these events initially were very poorly attended, but it's improving as we're doing this next year. We'll be focusing again on what we're seeing in the community and in the world, and how do we bring context to the students that are in the families that are not just attending James Irwin necessarily, but are living in our communities. This year we did receive Best of the Springs, gold for the middle school, silver for the high school, and bronze for the elementary school at the Astrazon location, the D2 location. Aspen, yeah, we have 3 authorizers. Yes, and so it's to doing it again. I'm not touching the button, I promise. Aspen Ware was the bronze best elementary educator, and her husband Derek Ware is actually our office manager, so that's pretty impressive. Then Ezekiel Ewan, he received, and he's a yeah, he's a student. And we had nothing to do with this, but he got the gold best for DJ and best wedding DJ, which is phenomenal. He did this on his own, so he does all of our dances and events, and so he has quite a future ahead of him. So absolutely fun. I mean, it's just, what did Linda say? He's just so cute, is what Linda said. But we were again recognized nationally by U.S. News and Report as one of the best schools in 2026, and so very, very pleased with that. Athletics. That button just keeps going. It's just going to keep going. Girls basketball and girls soccer qualified for state, and multiple track, golf, and wrestling athletes qualified for state champion as well. We have a new athletic director this year, Chad Baker, which I understand that your assistant superintendent knew Chad, and he walked in and he goes, "There's what do you say?" He called him Chad Baker, the touchdown maker, because they went to high school together, and Chad's like, "I wish you wouldn't have said that." His jacket's in my office. He left it when he visited. I meant to bring it today, so I forgot to bring it. But so that's pretty neat. We had Matchwitz advanced to state, and this is the way they spell it, but it's our acapello. Used to be honors choir. They earned a superior rating. They renamed themselves Blue Renaissance A Cappella. I don't know what that means, but I made sure that's what the spelling was actually correct. And then our robotics team competed in the VEX World Championship this year, which for just being the second year of having a team was pretty phenomenal. That they were able to go do that. One of the neat things, a couple of grants that we had, we got a $12,522 grant for Making Life Better. It's a biology grant to improve our biology labs. And then we got a grant from the Daniels Fund to start football. So James Irwin will have football beginning this fall. It's ironic, I sit on the League of Charter Schools board, and we were at our retreat, and someone from the Daniels Fund was there, and he said, I see you have a football field, but you don't have a team. Why? I go, well, we don't have the budget for it right now. He goes, well, write it up and I'll pay for it. And quite literally, that's how that worked. And so, of course, the board had to vote on it, but so we'll be starting a football team. And then what's We're next year, we'll be starting in middle school, and then we'll go through a C team in the high school, and then JV. We're going to build it up. Yeah, we just don't have the capacity that first year. And then I found out just yesterday that Chad Baker, the touchdown maker, and his team, they secured a grant to put in a girls tennis program. So they're going to pay for all of the components, including the tennis courts and all the rackets and all of that. And so he's really made a big difference in the sports program at James Irwin. So extremely proud of that. We had some student recognition. We had Boys and Girls Club Junior Student of the Year. This was a recipient took second place from James Irwin from high school. I didn't have permission to give out names, so I didn't. I'm not going to provide names, but you can probably Google it and look it up. And we also had one from P-Tech, but that's a D49 school. And so it was just neat to see the work that these kids are doing. This year, we did finally open the new JAGS daycare. We built a new daycare facility. If you recall, a couple of years ago, we put a modular in that was able to serve about 20 or so kids. Now we're serving 55 staff children during this last school year. And additionally, we added bathrooms and a new concession stand because it faces the football field. So it was just good timing. And we were not compliant with ADA, so I was able to make some of those changes that were required as well. And then something new this year that we've added and created is something called Leadership Academy. And this was an idea of we're always looking for new leaders, and whether we're expanding or they're moving on. And so we've started teaching on Saturday mornings classes on how to be a good leader. And the first class focuses on culture and just what is the difference between leadership and management. And the next course is gonna be focused on finance, governance, instruction, school law, SPED, all the things that aren't nearly as fun to talk about and learn, but are essential for school leaders. And there'll be a third one that'll happen the fall of 27. And that has had extreme amount of interest. We had to actually limit it to about 20 just to keep the sizes down. This Saturday, the first group will do their final presentations for us. And in the presentations, they had to either come up with a plan to start a new school, and they had to do all the work on finance and on a high level, of course, right? Or they had to go into a school that needed to be reborn or rebuilt. And so it's just a great experience for them to learn those things. And I think I lost one of my slides. I had a thank you slide at the end, but I think I must have deleted it somehow. That's all right. And that's what I have for you folks. What questions do you have?
I have a couple questions while the board thinks of theirs, but I know you have you started in D2 and you guys have expanded. The elementary in a neighboring district is not performing as well.
Correct.
What are you guys, I know we're not your authorizer for that school, but when James Irwin is not performing, people think it's our James Irwin. What are you all doing to help that neighboring district's James Irwin Elementary perform at the Astrazon James Irwin Elementary level?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so I didn't put this in the report, but it's public at this point. That school will be closed for 1 year. We're closing that school next year.
There's that.
And well, the students will not be displaced.
Yeah.
We've had difficult leadership issues at that school. For 2 years, I went in and did extensive coaching, and then last year I had Harry Reed, the chief academic officer, and my MTSS coordinator there almost full time, and it just isn't getting where we need to get it. And so what we're doing is we're going to bus those students to the Canada Drive location, the new elementary that's in District 49, because it has capacity, because it's still ramping up. And over the next year, we'll be rebuilding that program completely, and we're doing a comprehensive remodel on the space. We've seen declining enrollment for a number of years. It was built in the 50s, and it just doesn't look attractive anymore. So a lot of interior changes. And I want to back up. I'm not putting the onus on the leadership of the school completely. There's the way the classrooms were set up was just not, it wasn't designed well for the way that we teach. So we're actually reversing all the classrooms and making the classrooms so they're a better learning environment. So elder construction will be starting in there shortly, and a complete remodel of playgrounds and things on the outside as well.
My other academic related question is, and Vanguard's presenting next, and my same question for them, so they have more time to think of their answer. But
Great. Oh,
we know that charters did not want to go to taking online testing because that's not the environment many of you teach in.
Right.
We saw CMAS scores drop
Mhm.
in both of our charters. We are assuming part of it is because of the online piece. What are you doing to navigate that going forward, to adjust kids so they're ready to do that, so that the way they take the test doesn't affect the results?
yeah, thank you. That's a great question. As you know, we're a no device school. We start with cursive in kindergarten. And so when students are writing, their brains are doing this. This requires a different set of mental skills to write. So we do know that our scores in ELA are going to drop. Immediately when we knew this was going to come about, first of all, we didn't have devices, so we had to fork out a lot of money for devices. We started putting together keyboarding and computer classes in the elementary schools, and we'll continue to do so. The other thing that's impacted James Irwin scores at the elementary school level is that we ended up switching curriculum in math. And if you know us, and you know we don't make changes very easily or very quickly. What we noticed the year before last was that our pacing was just off. And so we brought the experts in to do training, and Carrie Reed and her team have been working very closely with the lead teachers and the principals to make sure that pacing is back on track. But we also have, we're bringing in a full-time data person to start looking at data and presenting data and putting it together in a way that makes sense. So we're not reacting to things, we're being proactive.
I want to get back to the Leadership Academy.
Mhm.
Um, so what do you anticipate this developing into? What is your forecast for the future? I saw that it says develop principles, but obviously everybody is not going to go down that route.
Right, right. Yeah, it actually, it probably does say developing for principals, but it really is designed for anyone who wants to be in a leadership role, lead teachers, deans, assistant principals, principals. We're going down this path because one, we have turnover, just like you would at any other school, and we want to protect our culture. I personally have a mission that when my time expires and I have to follow my wife around the beach and look at turtles someday, and that's what she says I'm going to do, that I want to make sure that the way that we teach, the things that we think, that they are long lasting. And so that's one of the goals of the Leadership Academy. The second, of course, and to fill the upcoming slots within the current schools. And then third, as you know, we're part of the Charter School Growth Fund, a couple of other organizations. There's a lot of pressure on us to continue expansion further south. And I think that once we solve the issues that you brought up, and because those are number one, paramount, take care of those first, that we'll continue the expansion of James Irwin, and we want to have the leadership folks in place. We also have, as part of this, we have intern teachers. So we bring people in who want to be teachers, and we pay them, but they work alongside a master teacher in the schools so that they're ready to go into a classroom the next year. So we're trying to build capacity rather than trying to react to capacity.
Hi.
Hi.
Your daycare, is that available to your families of students that attend?
No, ma'am. It's only available to the staff. Yes. And even with that, even with the new expansion this year, we're going to have a waiting list again because it is at no cost to the staff.
I have two questions. Thank you so much for this presentation. My first question is kind of following up with the Leadership Academy. So it focuses on culture, finance, governance, instruction, school law, and executive leadership. School law, is that talking about education law? Can you just give some more context on that? And then I have a second question too regarding the community and conversation events. I'm just more curious to learn more about them because they sound like a really interesting idea. Thank
Great.
you.
Yeah, so it's based, the school law is based on 2233, right? We bring in experts from the field, Eric Hall, Brad Miller, other folks like that to teach at a very high level the things that you need to know if you're going to be a school leader, what to expect, what changes maybe that we think are coming. But so if you could imagine just what does a school leader need to know about school law in order to operate, and that's what we're teaching. And again, it's very high level because that class is 8 hours total, and you can't read that document in 8 hours, right? The community and conversation, it varies depending on what the public wants to talk about, and we've had conversations about what one was almost completely on mental health, and so we brought in some mental health folks to talk about that. One was completely on safety, and not just, I'm not talking school safety, not the physical structure. We do discuss that, but talking to parents about internet safety. What predators are out there? What threats are there to your children? We've talked about these are some things we're seeing in the world right now with drugs and what, like fentanyl and things like that. What are the warning signs for your own children? And what resources are available? We had some conversations about ICE with a lot of the parents too, who were highly concerned and rightfully so about things that we're doing and what kind of policies we would have and what our response would look like. And I'm trying to think what other ones have come up. I'd be happy to include you on the future emails of those events, and you're certainly welcome to attend.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
What is your policy on ICE?
I don't have it memorized, but I think it matches probably yours or other schools. We're not going to let them in the building without a subpoena from a judge. And we haven't had an issue with it, obviously. But I'd be happy to provide it, that document to you if you'd like to see it.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you. So we are moving on to item 3.2. It is the Vanguard School Report. If you could,
I know. Thank you. I think it was a test. Good evening. I'm Jim Smith, Executive Director for the Vanguard School, and it's a real pleasure to be here tonight to talk about our school. We will talk some about our assessment data. We'll talk some about our program overall and some other things that are just happening at our school. But first, as you all do, before we start every presentation or every meeting, we read our mission statement, which states, the mission of the Vanguard School is to help guide students in the development of their character and academic potential through academically rigorous, content-rich educational programs. We do take this very seriously, and like I said, we talk about it at every meeting. We start every meeting that way, and whether it's in the school or in the community, we want to make sure that everyone knows what we stand for and what we're about. All right, this year was our 30-year celebration. So we've been around for 30 years now, and we had the opportunity to do some really cool things. One is we marched in 2 parades in the city, so that was fun to do. Haven't done that one before, so we did that. We had a full student body and staff picture taken. That's what you see in the bottom there. So that was a fun day. We had a drone that a parent owned and used for that. Our students helped with the neighborhood toy and food drive. And students also took part in honor of our 30th anniversary, a reading rally, producing an impressive 302,120 minutes of reading by 1,150 students. So the question might be, what do we believe? We believe that all students can learn if they are taught effectively. And we'll talk some about that a little bit later. The formation of good character goes hand in hand with excellent academics. That we really do want good human beings who are also challenged academically. And it's not just about the academics, but it's about the whole child. Serious scholarship requires self-discipline, determination, patience, and humility. And we teach those virtues as well. And parents play an active role in all aspects of the child's education. We really do challenge our parents to share their talents, to share their time, to be a part of our school, because we know that their child is their greatest asset, right? And we want to make sure that we're doing the absolute best thing we can for each child. When you look at some accolades that we have, the U.S. News and World Report ranked us #1 in Colorado Springs, #3 as the high school in the state, number 175 nationally among all high schools, number 42 among charter high schools, and 1 in D2. Our student body looks like, depending on the day, but 1,428 students enrolled, kindergarten through 12th grade, 220 students. And most of our students come from District 2, District 11, and District 3. And I'll give you a better breakdown later on in the presentation. Approximately 30% of our students qualify for free or reduced lunch, and 55% of our students identify as minority. Vanguard programs, our lower elementary is grades K through 3, kindergarten through 3rd grade. Upper elementary is grades 4 through 6. Junior high is 7 through 8, and high schools grades 9 through 12, which is pretty traditional, pretty typical. I would encourage you, if you'd like to come take a tour of the campus, I'd love to give individual tours or full tours of the campus to see what we're doing, but please come when the students are there. Without the students, it's not very exciting. The students are the magic for sure. So exciting changes that we've experienced in the last year. We started a K-3 lunch program, and we're serving about 250 lunches a day, which tells me that we're filling a need that existed for many years before. I would like for us to pursue with Don Kadarian, who's our elementary principal, Maria McComb, who's our business manager, and Jeff Fenton, who's our director for curriculum instruction. They're here with us as well. But looking at a breakfast program. The Beyond the Classroom program was a grant-funded opportunity for 90 families that got clothing, toiletries, and gift cards for new shoes. It was a really great program, and we hope to engage in that again this year. In partnership with UCCS, very similarly, we are supporting a citywide effort for aspiring charter school leaders to get licensed and to get their masters. I plan to teach some of those classes, so it should be fun. But they will get their certification and their master's degree through UCCS at the end of that program. We have a new sidewalk and Founders Pavilion that I'll show you when we go on a tour. The BEST grant is something that we will be pursuing next cycle, so coming up in the next year. And that BEST grant is focused on building a building on the Corona campus. I'll show you where that would be. And primarily it's about getting our kindergarten students out of Southern Cross. You know, we have classrooms in the strip mall at Southern Cross, and I'd like to get them, I'd like to get them out of there and to build that building. We have the Vanguard Teacher Apprenticeship Program, which is a program through UCCS, a partnership that we formed with them so that teachers can get certified and work towards a degree if they don't have one. This is primarily for paraprofessionals or those who aren't currently teaching. Then we started the Vanguard Staff Reimbursement Program. This pays up to 25% of the tuition only for those who are engaged in coursework that will lead to either being a teacher or an administrator. So this, I know you can't really read it, but this is our AP grid. We had 370, let's see, can't remember the number off the top of my head. Can you see it? 436 of the 436 assessments that were taken through AP, our average is almost 4.0 out of 5, which is pretty strong. Here is the list of assessments that we have. Very typical, I think, for what most schools would be engaging in with their students. New one is NWEA, and that helps us with our formative assessment work to make sure that we're tracking which students are growing, which students need additional support. And also it's been really, I think it's been very interesting to see staff engaging in data in a slightly different way. You know, it's not just all about CMAS data at the end as a summative assessment. So on the horizon, we are looking at that building project that I was describing. If we get the best grant, we don't have the funds otherwise, although it sounds like you know how to get money, so I might come talk to you about that with that. We have an alumni association that we started this year. This is about inviting our alumni to come back and be a part of our school, to share their talent, to share their time, and potentially their treasure as well. We're continuing to build a new budget model that's more transparent. Prior to me coming to the school, it was kind of a big pot of money. Now we're looking at breaking it out so that we have a real legitimate budget that is broken down by department, by activity, by athletic, all those different things. And Maria can speak to that more if you would like. Parent academies I hoped to have them started this year, but we didn't get them off the ground. These are classes probably similar to what you were describing in your community engagement. These are classes for parents to attend in an evening to learn about the impact of technology on student brain development. It's about mental health. So we surveyed our community to see what topics they would be most interested in. And so I have those topics that we will be hopefully kicking off next year for parents to engage in. So at this point, I'm going to ask Mr. Fenton to join.
Everyone. My name is Jeff Fenton, Director of Curriculum Instruction at the Vanguard School. I just completed my 22nd year at Vanguard. So part of the reason that I'm up here today is just to give any necessary historical knowledge about the school, right? So our focus here, as you saw in our mission statement, is character and academic potential together as a school. And we do that all the way from kindergarten up through 12th grade. We make sure that character is a main focus of what we're doing. To do these two things, we have a content blend that we go through K-12 and then an instructional blend. And I'll talk just briefly about both of those. So in K-6, we use a program called Core Knowledge for much of our content, especially in science and history and poetry, language arts, those sorts of things. But then it blends into a classical liberal arts education in the grades 7 through 12. We do a lot of work to transition between those because 6th to 7th for us and probably for many schools is the biggest years of transition when kids kind of change the way school looks, they change the way that everything operates. We do a lot of work to make that transition smooth for our students. When we talk about the way we instruct, we're a direct instruction school in kindergarten through 6th grade, a lot of choral responses. You might walk into our buildings and feel a little bit like this is a grammar school from the 1800s or something like that. And then blending that into a classical instruction methodology in grades 7 through 12 with more Socratic questioning, group work, those sorts of things that you might expect at a classical school. And then, of course, the blender for those things is our junior high, which is a great metaphor for being in junior high as it is. We try to meet students where they are. So we do a lot of achievement-based grouping that is primarily in reading and math, but not exclusively in reading and math. And then, of course, continues up through the high school, as you would expect. We do have extensive professional development, mentoring, and coaching. So I am, among my other tasks, one of 9 instructional coaches at our school. We have 2 of us that specialize as leaders in that, and then we have 7 teachers who are also instructional coaches. We do a complete week of pre-service training with all new staff before the returning staff come back for another week. We lead professional development sessions throughout the year. I lead most, but not all of those. I was really excited this year to bring back a tradition at our school that had been dormant since COVID. because COVID did a lot of things, called Choose Your Own Professional Development, which was a sort of symposium style where we had our own staff members presenting to each other throughout the day, and it was really well received on a variety of topics. And of course, when we talk about developing the whole person, that really leans into our liberal arts education philosophy, where we have things that other schools might find quirky. For instance, art and music history as graduation requirements. It's not something you see everywhere, right? And that has to do with that whole approach. When we do talk, is it okay if I roll the character growth? Okay. We talk about character growth. Yeah, I'll just keep talking. We have a lot of different things that we do to try to instill this. And this is probably more than any academic portion of our program. What we spend the most time tweaking is the way that we approach our character development. This past year, it looked like Sanford Harmony as a program in the elementary school. Pure Grit Awards are something that we give to kids for showing particular characteristics related to grit. We have things that we follow called the 5D Keys to Success and the Cardinal Virtues. In the junior high, we do active character lessons in the academic classroom. So each subject is actually responsible for a character trait to teach the kids at certain points in the year. In the high school, we have virtue discussions where we bring in an entire class. So we'll bring in all the freshmen and sit down with them and talk about a particular virtue every week. And then finally, we have something called the Senior Capstone Project, where kids are blending their academic experience with their personal experiences to say things about how to live a good life. Next year, we're investigating a program called, remind me of the name again, Sources of Strength. I was just learning about this literally today, so I'm having trouble with it, but as a potential addition to our character program as well. And it sounds very exciting. We talk about our academic progress monitoring really quickly. Dr. Smith mentioned the different tests that we take. We do, of course, use these as external measures like DIBELS and NWEA and CMAS. We also have some internal measures where we do our own oversight of our mastery. Along the way, we have pacing, where we have people in charge of checking how the teachers are doing and how far they've gone, how well the students are mastering different materials. And then, unlike many schools, our assessments are really standardized. So say 5th grade is taking a history test. There's 5 different history teachers. They all take the same test. That sort of thing is true across the board. I have a few real quick slides here to just show some score history. My apologies on some of these. When we transferred from one presentation to another, the coloring got a little messy. So if you ever have any questions about what a line is, just ask. But this is just comparing over the last 10 years, our scores on CMAS and PSAT and SAT to sort of local schools. So we often throw District 12 up there. That's just because our school board likes to see that comparison since it's our history, in addition to putting state and District 2 on there. But that is our history with ELA in the elementary. And then you can see our history with math in the elementary. It moves on to, and then we can pause for any questions if anybody has any. Junior high ELA, and then junior high math. And what the scores you're looking at, I should have said up front, these are the mean scores for our students. One thing that we've tried to get to the bottom of for many years is we do well on CMAS, but we always do consistently much better on SAT. And exactly why is that? If I had the magic answer for that, I would love to give it today, but we always investigate it. We have our suspicions. These are SAT mean scores over the last 10 years. That number you see at the end, which was 2025, 1255 was the second highest average in the state. We do have the numbers coming out for next year. There may be folks in the room who've seen them, and I haven't yet, but we'll see them, I think, tomorrow. The SAT is when they're released to us. Those are just some more numbers related to our SAT scores and PSAT scores over the last few years. We do track those as we see our students coming up to see how well they perform, because it involves, state graduation requirements, but also we just want our kids to be well prepared for their college applications and so on. When we look at our AP data, this simplifies it a bit. I don't think I need to repeat too much of this, but this is a simpler form of what Dr. Smith showed you. I think the highlight for me is not just the mean score, but the percentage of students who scored a 3 or higher, which last year was 94% of our students who took the tests. I believe that is it for me, and we're back to student enrollment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fenton. Yeah, so with student enrollment, if we just look at where our students are coming from, District 2 has 30%. You can see their percentages, and District 12 at 9%. Just think it's good to see where students are coming from. But they come from all over the city. In fact, we've had students come from Pueblo, Woodland Park, Monument. It's kind of neat to see. Again, just looking at some demographic data and how we're broken down in terms of who our students are. You'll note IEPs are at 7.2%. That does fluctuate from elementary to high school. What would you say elementary is? It's more in the lower grades and then fewer at the high school. Here's a discipline data kind of broken down by subgroups. I won't read all this to you, but you can see the different groups and the percentage. Any questions here? I can talk about it, I guess. So as Mr. Fenton shared, we have a lot of ongoing training for our staff to make sure that they're prepared to give the absolute best that they can for each of our students, kind of no matter how they come to us, no matter what level they're at. I wish we had that one slide of showing progress over time, how they come to us in what, by the third grade. Mm-hmm. So also at our school, we have an exceptional arts program. And when you come take a tour, I'll show you around in the different art pieces that we have. Many award winners at the national level, at the local level. The middle sketch there is one of my all-time favorite student works, the self-portrait. And it's fantastic. Took her like a whole semester, but it's fantastic. The other one, which is Icarus, I believe, is a sculpture that a student made on the left. And the right is a second grader who did some printmaking. The one on the right, the cathedral, you can't really tell it, but it's a stained glass piece. So the student clipped out little pieces of glass and formed this cathedral using stained glass at that. We've already talked about the building kind of plans for the future, but as you know, we have two separate campuses, one on Wasatch, one on Corona, and Southern Cross. That's it. What questions do you have for us?
I have two questions. One, the same thing I asked James Irwin about online testing.
Yeah.
And two, Maria, didn't you graduate from D2 or you went to D2 at one point? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I thought so. So there's a connection there. And then online testing, we know that scores are lower for our charters than what we typically see. We know that many charters did not want to do online testing because that's not their instructional model. What have you guys seen with that and what are you doing to
Yep.
prepare kids to do the online? And then the answer to the SAT is, to me, it's a clear answer. It's how you two teach. It's your instruction is aligned with SAT and how they test versus CMAS. So it's not surprising to me that your two schools excel on SAT because that's the instructional model of the classical education.
So online testing, you're right. I think many charter schools have been resistant to going online. We didn't have a choice, so we did move to online testing. In preparation for that, we did do some prep work. We also have a keyboarding class, the elementary level, to kind of get kids used to that. But like James Irwin, our students start out in cursive, right, and writing all the time. A lot of paper, pencil work, and so. What's that? Oh, yes. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. The student that was here last,
mm.
Cameron,
Mm.
pretty smart kid. Yeah. Pretty smart kid. So we have those kind of things in place, but I would say our staff appreciated going virtual this year. You know, that We spent less time bubbling, labeling, packing, unpacking, packing again, all of those things that, you know, you do with the paper booklets. So I think we'll just have to see how it goes over time, how students kind of acclimate to it, but it is the new reality. So we'll keep an eye on that. But the scores are lower, you're right, for this year, I would anticipate.
Thank you for this information. Are your high school students taking advantage of the D2 Promise program that we have here in?
You have some that have graduated and or have joined the D2 Promise program. Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the aspiring charter school leaders?
Yes. So it started out as a kind of a partnership with, Dr. Domingue. She used to be a superintendent in Manitou Springs. She works for UCCS now, and we had a conversation about, it would be great if we could build a pipeline of future principals and assistant principals, very similar to what James Irwin's doing. But I wanted them to end up with certification and potentially a master's degree if they wanted to pursue that, so that they had more flexibility in their life if they decided they wanted to go somewhere else. So it started out as charter school only. So we pitched the idea across the region to see how many people we would get to jump on board for that particular program. And we didn't have quite enough people sign up. So now it's a kind of a blend of charter school leaders and others who want to be a part of a cohort during that time. But there will be kind of a focus on charter schools and how that might be different, which I think will be good for everybody.
So this is how you're growing your own.
Yes.
Okay. That rings familiar here. And then on the parent academies, it's strictly per the interest of topics of the day or
So
besides what kind
yeah,
of
so I
content?
sent out a survey to the community this year saying, this is what it is. This is what we'd like to accomplish. What topics would you like for us to focus on? And actually I gave like 10 different topics and asked them to rank them. And so they ranked them. And so we'll use that as how we'll select the topics for the parent academies. What I'm trying to decide is, should we do it virtually or in person? I always prefer in person, but sometimes there are obstacles that prevent people from coming in person. So maybe it's blended.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, my fellow school board director asked a great question. What is your policy on ICE? Did you have a
It would be the
significant-
same. We
It would be the
wouldn't
same.
allow
Okay.
anyone in the building without a subpoena. We'd follow exactly what's happening
Harrison
here in
School
the
District
district.
too.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for the presentation. It's
Thank you.
very informative.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving on to item number 4.1. It is the Vanguard School contract.
Just to reiterate what I had shared with you all is we met with Vanguard multiple times to go over the contract. This is their renewal from when we first brought them into the D2 house. And our legal, Ms. Thompson, has worked a lot to update the contract. When we brought them in with their original contract, it was really taking the contract as District 12 had done it and just changed everything from District 12 to District 2. And so this is really now, there's a lot of redlining because we're just changing it to be more current and to be within District 2's contract language. So we would propose from our end that you approve as proposed. But if you have questions, both Vanguard and our legal are here if you wanted to ask.
I think it's 2.5 in the contract.
opportunity to, oh, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to answer any questions. There was a question posed around 2.5, which addresses diversity and equity training at Vanguard. This is holdover language from the original contract. And so as much as could be left in, was left in, the modernization is the updated language to bring it to current statute. But I also understand the concern around having that in the contract. So I will defer to Dr. Smith as to whether or not that's language that should stay in around diversity and equity training in light of executive order. And just to provide you with a little bit more context, there is outstanding executive order that says this type of language in government contracts is no longer permissible. It's subject to debate as to whether or not an executive order carries the same force of law. And so I think in terms of contract language, can it be omitted? Probably so. Does it have to be omitted? I will work at the direction of the board. I don't think it has to be omitted, but I'll let Dr. Smith weigh in.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I appreciate is that District 2 has offered the opportunity for staff to come here or for staff to go to the school to provide training as we need or as we schedule that. And as you just heard from Mr. Fenton, we have a lot of professional development that goes on throughout the course of the year, including the choose your own professional development. So I'm not wholly opposed to keeping the language. But if it needs to be taken out due to, the executive order, then I would support that as well. So I'm not feeling it.
And I will just share the history of the board on this was, there was a concern when we brought Vanguard on, around what does equity and diversity look like for them? They're coming out of D12. It wasn't clear in there of what that kind of looked like and what the support was, and coming into a very diverse district where we value that greatly, and that's one of our kind of premises. So that's why that was put in to begin with, is to make sure that as they joined us, that they had the same philosophy around diversity and equity for all.
Now that the requirements have changed at the federal level, you have a governing board. Would they support having it in the contract or removing it?
Fair question. I don't want to speak for the board. Yeah, I don't know how I would answer that. I would imagine some would say keep it and some would say remove it, It still is diversity, equity, and inclusion are still kind of lightning rod words. And so I would imagine that might be an approach that they might take to say, why leave it in if we know that it's going to be kind of controversial?
And I think leaving it in isn't to invite controversy. However, should it become an issue, typically we would be put on notice. We could come back together and decide collectively as a team between the charter and our district, what we wanted to do in efforts to comply based on the notice work. So we haven't been put on notice, not to say that it couldn't happen or it wouldn't happen, but I will take the language, leave the language, whatever this board feels most comfortable with as you guys consider approval of the contract.
And do I understand it correctly that my board will have a chance to look at this? Do they have a chance to weigh in on it?
So typically it would be ratified by our board. Our board is taking it up for review tonight. They'll vote on whether or not they adopt it as is. If it's adopted as is, then yes, it can be signed by our board president, and then it goes to your board for review and signature if it's acceptable.
So if they have concerns, they could bring it up at that point.
It could come back to our board, but our board would have to approve in another open meeting any revisions to the language of the contract.
Okay, thank you.
I will say, since Vanguard has come on and we've had this, it was really Dr. Claudio at the time, but they've worked hand in hand with us around diversity and equity, and initially we provided the training, and now they've taken it on, and it's just become, from my perspective and what I've seen and what I've witnessed, is
Yep.
they're doing what we would hope that they would do and taking it on themselves.
Well, from my perspective, if we've already been doing it, why does it have to be mandated
Yeah.
in the contract? Because once we sign it, it's a mandate, it's a requirement. And,
Yeah, and there's options, there's a variation of options as to how the implementation goes, but it really goes back to them being invited to participate in our district training. And I think we open that option regardless. So I don't think taking the language out changes that relationship substantially. So it can be language stricken at the direction of this board very simply.
I'd like for others to weigh in.
When I think about the percentage of SPED, the percentage of Hispanic, the percentage of African American and other, and when we think of SPED, that's all inclusive of all. I would prefer it stays in, and if we have that partnership, it's gone well, we've done well. We are just making sure that we're taking care of everyone very well.
From my perspective, I would also leave it in. However, I do have a question regarding option 3. So from what you said, Dr. Berhansel, it seems like Vanguard already has established kind of an equity training program based on the model that we have had here in Harrison School District 2. My concern is, like, moving forward, having this be a mandate. What are the qualifications, even for ourselves, and also specifically for Vanguard, because we're talking about the Vanguard contract? Like, what metrics are we putting in for an equity training program that is consistent with our values, and will that change in the future if it just has the name or the title of equity training? That is my concern, like the longevity and sustainability of what it means in congruency with ours.
I think that's where we need to remember we're the authorizer of a charter school. We are not running the charter school. And so we want them to do diversity and equity training, and we will talk with them about what that looks like. We will offer that, but we are not saying it has to be ABC and it has to meet this criteria. It's what is the need, and that could look very different at our 3 different charter systems. Just my opinion, I would prefer it comes out because I don't want to have anything that's going to be Cora or something that's going to alert anyone to look at what we're doing when we're not doing anything wrong but right by kids. I think they're doing a good job. I think if they're not, then we come back and we put it back in and we say, you guys haven't met the mark on this. And you're not holding your end of the bargain, which I don't think they will, but we can always come back and update the contract or do an amendment. But I just think right now, with where lawsuits are going in education, they're going after certain words, and those are them right there.
And if I could just say, to credit Vanguard, they gave a really comprehensive report to the board as part of their reauthorization application with a lot of really disaggregated data showing performance across those different subcategories. So I really have absolutely no concerns that those efforts are going to be sustained over time. Um, Given the amount of work that Vanguard has done, the performance that they have demonstrated, and just their leadership in general, they've done an excellent job showcasing their efforts. So I can support either way the decision lands this evening.
Mr. Williams?
Having experienced some legal things in the past, I would strike it.
And just to be clear, it's not, I didn't raise the question because I question if you were doing an adequate program. My point of reference is working for municipal government. And we were clearly instructed that we could not have any reference because it was going to impact federal funding for us. And that is not a funding source that we can afford to even here in the district. We have to really be cognizant of what the implications are of this. So um, I don't know. I think we may have some general consensus to strike.
Definitely don't mind. I don't want anyone sued. I just want to ensure that this is,
We're on the same.
it's, you know what I'm saying? And if things were, as we said, it's, you've been doing what you were, were told to do. So technically, we're just striking it because of government issues right now. And so, and you're doing well, but as long as it's sustained as we, and I mean, I'm not seeing it change, but what I do like as a charter, don't want to dictate, but that we can place that back in if we're sensing or hearing or it's being reported that this is, but I don't have a fear.
I would say another sign that would make me feel differently. If you saw their discipline, it's not disproportionate at all. And so I think that's also telling of the work they're doing.
No concerns, definitely with.
Okay. So I think that we are of a general consensus. We want that stricken from it.
I will get a revised draft to you, Madam President,
Yes.
striking section 2.5 altogether.
Yes. Okay. So with that, we have the adopted budget resolution appropriations fiscal year 27. Okay. So I just need a recommended motion. Oops. Okay, I need a recommend motion to approve the Vanguard contract as amended, please. Yeah. Come to that.
I would ask that the board not approve the contract tonight because there's edits that I sent over to Dr. Smith that I don't think have been included yet. I sent them last week, so.
No.
Our problem is that
If we don't approve tonight, and we can always come back and amend, but if we don't approve tonight, you will be operating without our authorization July 1.
Got it.
And the
Okay.
board doesn't meet till August, so you would not get authorization until August. And we can bring those up in August, but at least that way you can go forward July 1, knowing you have a contract.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, if I may, yeah, so if the board approves minus section 2.5 this evening, it will go and be forwarded to Vanguard as the board has accepted. If Vanguard later has those adjustments or amendments that they're asking for, that would have to come back to the board in a subsequent meeting, our next meeting being August, for the board to review those requests and make a determination as to whether or not any action will be taken on those requests for amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, as I stated before, I just need a recommended motion to approve with amendments. the Vanguard School contract.
Madam President, I move to approve after revisions the Vanguard Charter contract for 2026-2027.
Second.
Motion to approve the Vanguard 2026-2027 contract by Mr. Williams, second by Ms. Frazier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contract is approved. Thank you. We have the adopted budget resolution appropriations fiscal year 27. Is there any comments or questions? All right, thank you. I just need a recommended motion to approve the resolution for fiscal year 27.
Madam President, I move to approve the resolutions for fiscal year 2026-2027 approved budget.
Second.
Motion to approve the adopted budget resolution for appropriations fiscal year 27 by Mr. Williams, second by Ms. Frazier. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It is approved. I just need a motion to approve the adopted budget resolution, beginning fund balance fiscal year 2027, please.
Madam President, I move to approve the adopted budget resolution for appropriations fiscal year 2027.
I second.
Motion to approve the adopted budget resolutions, beginning fund balance fiscal year 27 by Mr. Williams, second by Ms. Tamayo. All those in favor? Aye. It is approved. All right, we're moving on to OE reports 5.1. It is the learning environment treatment of students. This is going to be by Ms. Nicole Sherbin, standing in for Dr. Angela Valdez.
Actually, Ms. Sherman's doing the report, so we got the real deal. And before she starts, Ms. Arcarice was on the phone listening for the finance approval and just says, gracias, thank you for approving the budgets.
Good evening, Board of Education. Dr. Burhensel, thank you so much for having me. I am honored to present our OE5 Learning Environment Treatment of Students Operational Expectations Monitoring Report. So looking at the monitoring report, you will see Ms. Wills Hill and I have kind of been in conversation about this report today. So the report that we have projected has been altered slightly, and we'll get to that when we look at the superintendent expectations, but I just wanted to make sure that you see that. So what we're looking at for our OE5 operational expectations are 3 bullets in which we find that this overall operating expectation does become non-compliant. Looking at bullet 5.1, bullet 2 is 2% short of our goal of 85%. Bullet 5, OE 5.1 bullet 3 was 13% of our goal of 85%. And bullet 5.14 was short 9% of our goal. So looking at OE 5.1, which is our area of growth that we want to make sure that we focus on for this monitoring report, it does state that we will maintain a climate that is characterized by support and encouragement for student achievement. So we have 4 indicators identified as our compliance indicators. Bullet 1 states that 85% of our staff on the school quality survey agree that the school's academic standards and expectations are clearly defined. You can see that we are in compliance for this bullet number 1 indicator, with 93% of our staff positively responding that our school's academic expectations and standards are clearly defined. The next 3 indicators indicators of compliance or where we're looking to fall short. So 85% of our elementary students, grades 3 through 5, on our school quality survey agree that my teacher makes learning interesting. This unfortunately fell short by 1%. On only 84% of our elementary students who were surveyed said that that our teachers make learning interesting. You'll see for our next two bullet points where we were looking at our 85% of our middle school students, grades 6 through 8 on the school quality survey would agree that their teachers make learning relevant through our career connected learning, real world application, personalized learning, or cultural relevancy. Only 72%, and this is where there is that concern in what you're seeing here on our evidence of compliance, because unfortunately, currently, how the survey asks the question, it does not break it down from 6 to 8. It actually surveys 6 through 12th graders. And so on the draft that you have in front of you, evidence of compliance for bullet points 3 and 4 were combined because they're asking similar questions, but not disaggregated by our middle grades and by our high school grades. So I have separated those out for you, Ms. Wills Hill, so that we can take a look at those. Unfortunately, for that question, 72% of our students say that teachers make learning relevant. And then 76% of our students do say that teachers correct learning to careers. So that's that 9%. On those survey questions, I did note in the addendum that we need to look at how the quality survey is asking that question so that it is disaggregated, but also to emphasize the idea that career and professional skills is questioned in the survey. It doesn't ask about professional and career skills. It only talks and asks if they are connecting learning to careers. And so while we are asking about careers, there are a lot of what is unfortunately being named as our soft skills that are constantly being taught that students might not have positively discussed in the survey or identified in the survey because they were only looking for how this relates to a job. On OE 5.2, we are looking at that the superintendent regularly reviews and adjusts as needed district boundaries to assure a reasonable balance in enrollment based on building capacity, student opportunity to pursue desired academic programs, equity based or on ethnicity, socioeconomic balance, and other factors. We are happy to report that for those indicators, we absolutely met all three. So first indicator that we're looking at is that school boundaries are reviewed annually to assure reasonable balance in student enrollment. During the 25-26 school year, student support created enrollment maps for each elementary school's boundaries and where each student for that school actually lives within our district and even outside of our district. So once the superintendent and the executive team received all of those disaggregated maps, the superintendent and the executive team determined that there is a reasonable balance in student enrollment and they did not make any changes for this school year. Indicator number 2 is that school attendance boundaries are reviewed annually to assure reasonable access to academic programs based on geography. Superintendent and executive leadership team did review the attendance boundaries and academic programs and determined that no boundary changes need to be made at this time other than refining transportation routes to ensure that students have access geographically to their schools. The last bullet that we're looking for this indicator is that school attendance boundaries are reviewed annually to assure reasonable cultural diversity, social economic balance, and other factors. And cultural diversity and other factors were not a factor that need to be addressed for attendance boundaries. Our schools are very diverse and we don't see an over or under representation at any of our schools. OE 5.3 looks at making sure that the superintendent will assure that all confidential student information is properly used and protected. So the indicator that we have there is that there are no FERPA violations committed by the district or reported by any legal or monitoring institution. And that is done through monthly monitoring checks with each building. We routinely get monthly emails checking this is the April FERPA that goes to HR, student support, and other departments. During the 25-26 school year, there were no incidents that would result in the violation of FERPA or any sort of concerns about sharing of student privacy information. OE 5.4 looks at the superintendent may not tolerate any behavior, actions, or attitudes by adults who have contact with students that hinder the academic performance or the well-being of students. So we have two indicators for compliance for this OE. First indicator is that there are no incidents of an adult adversely affecting the well-being of a student as reported by parents or administration to principals, human resources, or the superintendent, in which the district did not take any immediate and appropriate action to protect the student and reports such incidents appropriately. We are happy to report that any incidents that were reported by parents or administration in which staff member may have adversely affected the well-being, all of those were had district take action and immediate appropriate support.
I just want to interrupt. I think that one can be tricky because it doesn't mean we didn't have inappropriate or concerning behaviors, right? I think it's important to note that HR and student support daily are taking feedback and we immediately act. We don't wait to get the statements. We make sure the kids are safe first while we get our information and we take immediate action as needed. And so that's something that we do very well in this district is when we do hear something, we always fall on the air of safety while we explore to make sure everything's what it should be.
Correct. Yes. Thank you. And then our last indicator for 5.4 is that 80% of students respond positively in the survey that their teachers help them if they are doing poorly on an assignment. We love and are happy to report that 89% of our students in grades 3 through 5 and 85% of our students in grades 6 through 12 responded positively that teachers are there to help them do better on their schoolwork for an average of 87%. And then we have, I promise we're almost there, we have two more OEs to look at. OE 5.5 is the superintendent may not permit unnecessary or irrelevant collection of student information. We have one indicator for this operational expectation. And so that is that we review any data requests and the curriculum and instruction and data department do not, there's no unnecessary or irrelevant student data that is shared or collected about students. This year, we received a total of 79 requests for student data. That includes 54 releases of information, 18 research requests, and 7 subpoenas. So myself and the director of curriculum and the director of data review all of the data requests before that information goes out, and all requests for data were compiled with district policies and procedures. Our last OE for operational expectation 5 is 5.6 that states the superintendent may not permit the social promotion of students. We have two indicators for this OE. First indicator being that students advancing to the next grade level have met the criteria for promotion. we are in compliance for this indicator. When an administrator has any concerns about a student advancing to the next grade level or they did not meet the criteria for promotion, they do follow our protocols that we have through teaching and learning. And so our assistant superintendent of teaching and learning connects with myself as well as our CLDE to ensure that students are being promoted to the next grade level did meet the criteria to do so. And the assistant superintendent of teaching and learning reviews any administrator retention requests and their body of evidence as required in the district retention guidance document. This past school year, 8 students who did not meet that criteria for promotion were retained. Bullet number 2, make sure that students advancing to the next grade level who have not met the criteria for promotion and who are not retained have an academic intervention plan in place. So the director of data and I reviewed the data for 727 students who did not meet the criteria for promotion. And those students are identified as students with significant reading deficiencies through their testing and their culmination of their records. So of those students, 719 have a plan in place, such as an IEP, an MTSS, or a READ plan to support their promotion to the next grade level. So they were not retained.
Of those 8,
Mhm.
and they're not involved in either one of these programs. So what, in your best estimate, what is it that they did not do, or what was the reason for them not meeting the requirement? Was it absenteeism? Was it?
A lot of it is absenteeism. Some of this we're also going to see when we looked at these 8 students, looking beyond just their READ plan that identifies them as these significant reading deficiency students. We're looking at their cumulative record, so grades as well, that really are looking at whether or not they're ready to promote. All 8 of these students that were retained were also counseled with administration and with their parents and were in support of retention. I was like, my assistant superintendent who reviews these retention just happens to be here.
Are there any additional questions, comments? I just was curious, is this available in like a trend analysis format visual where we can see?
It is currently not, but I do have I have previous OEs for the past 3 years since I have developed them for the past 3 years that I can create a trend data for you.
I think that would be helpful for us visual people.
Yes, ma'am.
And also when Sherburne took over, both the OEs she's presenting that are in compliance with exceptions were, I believe, out of compliance. So she's come a long way in those areas.
They most definitely were, yes. Unfortunately.
Well, then we can appropriately display your successes.
Yes, ma'am.
How about that?
Happy to do that.
All right. If there's no more questions or comments, Ms. April, if you could move this to consent agenda, please. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
But wait, there's more. Item 5.2, OE 12, discipline. Again, this is going to be Ms. Nicole Sherburne, Director of Student Support.
Hello, Board of Education and Dr. Burhansel. Again, thank you so much. I am happy to present to you OE 12, Student Discipline Operational Expectations Monitoring Report. I am very happy, as Dr. Burhansel stated, to let you know that this monitoring report is absolutely compliant with one noted conception. is looking at OE 12.1, bullet 3, did fall 10.5% short of our goal. You will see the thoughts and then redlined options for proposing how to make sure that we meet this goal in the future. So overall, OE 12 is 87.5% in compliance. 7 out of 8 of our indicators are in compliance. The area of growth for OE 12 is noted in the addendum, and we'll discuss that when we get there as well. So OE 12.1 is focused on the idea that the superintendent may not permit unruly behaviors on school property and at school-sponsored events by students that disrupt the learning or that are disrespectful or dangerous, including any form of bullying. We do have 4 bullets for indicators of compliance. Bullet number 1 is that 80% of students respond positively that they feel safe in classrooms in a survey conducted prior to the end of the year. Happy to report 91% of students in grades 3 through 5 and 85% of students grades 6 through 12 responded positively on the student quality survey that they feel safe in classrooms this past school year, for a total average of 88%. Succeeding the 80% goal by 8%. Bullet indicator number 2 is that 80% of students respond positively that staff members are present during passing periods and before and after school in a survey conducted prior to the end of the year. You can see for that indicator, we are also in compliance. 90% of students in grades 3 through 5 and 93% of students in grades 6 through 12. This is one of our indicators where our high schoolers are seeing more of their students or of their staff in the hallways. Positively respond that staff are present in the hallways for a total of a 91% average. For indicator 3, 80% of our students who report bullying participate in a restorative practice in response to their report, according to a survey conducted prior to the end of the school year. Unfortunately, this is that indicator that is tricky because only 79% of our students in grades 3 through 5 and 60% of our students in grade 6 through 12 participate in a restorative practice when they report bullying. So we're only at 69.5%. So this is where it's important to note that while 69.5% of students who were surveyed did note that they participated in a restorative practice, that 50% of our referrals really do look at a restorative practice or a restorative response. So it might be that students are not aware that they are participating in a restorative response when they're having those reconnection circles. Additionally, only 79% of our students are responding that they feel, 79% of our students are reporting that they feel safe to report bullying, even though only 52% actually report the bullying. So we also see that as a concern in this question because while they state that they feel safe, they're not reporting the bullying for them to participate in restorative practice conversations. So while they are reporting and participating in restorative practices, bullying behaviors are being addressed, we believe, at the goal rate of 90%, as students do positively respond in a different question of the survey that their school has clear rules and consequences for behaviors. My recommendation, and I know we're not there, but my recommendation for this is that since it is hard to account for students who are not reporting bullying, and since this OE is focused on not permitting unruly behaviors, suggest us changing this question to actually question 23, which does respond to whether or not when actions are happening, that schools have clear rules and consequences for those behaviors to make sure that we understand if kids are being safe and whether or not we are actually meeting the OE overall, that the superintendent is not permitting unruly behaviors on school property. For bullet number 4, 80% of students respond positively that staff members respond appropriately when there is unruly behavior in the classroom. In a survey conducted prior to the end of the year, as I had stated before, 92% of students in grades 3 through 5 and 84% of students in grades 6 through 12 positively respond on the student quality survey that their teacher responds appropriately when there is unruly behavior in the classroom. OE 12.2 asks that the superintendent ensure that all policies and procedures regarding discipline are culturally responsive, collaboratively developed, appropriately communicated to student and parents, and enforced consistently using reasonable judgment. We have 3 indicators for OE 12.2. Bullet 1 asks that culturally responsive language is embedded in the student code of conduct. We are in compliance for this indicator. During the 25-26 school year, the Code of Conduct Student Restorative Behavior Response resource was centered around restorative practices regarding behavior. It was developed to help school administrators be more restorative, affirmative, and culturally responsive when reacting to behaviors outlined in the student Code of Conduct. So for every Code of Conduct violation that's outlined, there is an example of how to respond restoratively with a outline of how it is reflective, instructive, and restorative. Additionally, student support in conjunction with D2's Community Council helped develop a school reference for behavior resolution descriptions. So each description outlines when the resolution should be used and what behavior is addressed so that we don't have administrators or front office staff incorrectly coding or understanding that the behavior is a certain level of degree of assault or a crime of violence, that they're understanding what those terms within the discipline student code of conduct actually means.
Question. What is a D2 community council?
Our D2 community council is made up of, oh, okay, I was like, am I allowed to say it? Formerly our equity council. So the Equity Council is made up of administrators, counselors, district level leaders who sit and meet and review current policies, current practices, and view them through a lens where everyone is able to have access to their education or access to extracurriculars. But yes, formerly our Equity Council.
So I am just wondering, with that and the prior discussion with Vanguard, will we need to take that term out of OE4? Because it's in there and I just wonder, slightly used, but I just wonder.
I don't know that. I mean, quite honestly, in other places, they just rename it, but we all know what it is.
Mhm. Right, and so it's actually in, because I just wondered, or is it, I think that's where I wrote OE4, I believe. But
Yeah. We'll discuss at the retreat. Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're okay. I was trying to describe what the community council is without also using that word at this point. But so we are in compliance for that indicator. The third indicator is that the student code of conduct is provided. I'm sorry, only number 2. So indicator number 2, a review of student office referrals and suspensions show that students receive appropriate and consistent consequences 99% of the time for disruptive behaviors that interfere with the learning environment or school-sponsored events. Again, we are happy to report that this is in compliance. A review of student office referrals and suspensions that students receive are appropriate and consistent consequences 99% of the time for disruptive behaviors that interfere with the learning environment or school-sponsored events. So behavior resolutions in Infinite Campus are reviewed each month and shared with executive team and D2's community council. In the addendum for OE12, you will actually see some historical data for you about what we see when we're looking at some of the office referrals. You can see for in-class disruption learning environment, we did have 1,811 referrals. You'll notice that the number one response for any in-class disruption of the learning environment is that 48% of the time it's a restorative practice, followed by 22% of the time is the Student Success Center. Both of those are restorative responses. They are not exclusionary practices, so they are appropriate.
I will say this is to applaud Sherbin and her team. We get reports as executive team monthly, so we can see what does suspension look like at every campus. Also, what are the diverse, does it match their diversity on their campus? Is it disproportionate? Language, sped, all the different things. This has really helped us hone in on where we need to retrain administrators or teachers on restorative work, along with what are options. And the community council is all about the disproportionate behavior and really helped us move the needle on that to decrease expulsion, decrease suspension, keep kids in school, use our student success centers, and get a more aligned discipline. So Sherbin does a lot of charts on that, which has helped us.
Yes, more charts to come. Yes. And the last bullet point for this indicator is that the student code of conduct is provided digitally or hard copy if requested to parents and students every year or when new families enroll. The student code of conduct was provided and is provided to families during the 25-26 school year in multiple ways, which include referenced in individual schools' handbooks and planners, handed out at our yearly school check-ins in July, or during new student registrations throughout the year at schools. It's posted accessibly on the website in English and Spanish. It's reviewed with students and parents at the beginning of the school year at back to school nights. There was a provided link to have parents sign a document at check-ins this past year in July to note that they have received a copy and understood the content as part of the student check-in. And it's part of student and school orientation. Our last bullet, OE 12.3, is that the superintendent will identify and address inequities in discipline practices. We have one indicator for this OE, and it's that 100% of the time, discipline inequities and disproportionate application of discipline practices are addressed. Dr. Burhansel did speak to this as we review those monthly, and I've outlined some of the things that happened because we are absolutely in compliance for this. So student data is gathered monthly, it's disaggregated and brought to the school level administrators throughout the year during student support and admin meetings to analyze for inequities and or disproportionate application in discipline practices. School data was broken down by ethnicity or race, disability, so special education status, the type of referral, what the referral response is, and and then the resolution type. So any school during these meetings that do have disproportionate student discipline files were required to discuss their discipline and create a plan with the executive team to address those concerns. The district has reduced, again, some data for you. Ms. Wills Hill has reduced the number of expulsions and out of school suspensions. There was an increase in referrals. However, resolutions for restorative practices and student success centers accounted for 40% of all referral resolutions. And so that really focuses on removing disproportionate application of discipline and making sure that we're not excluding students from the classroom. So you will see, we can take a look at how those referrals have changed over the year. While we do see an increase, we see a decrease in out-of-school suspensions and a decrease in expulsions because we are teaching how to respond to behaviors through those referrals so that we make sure that students are participating in restorative practice conversations and that they are getting help from the Student Success Center. So those referrals are helpful in us making sure that students receive the support in learning behaviors.
And just to clarify the myth that we don't suspend or expel in D2 and we just let students run around crazy, that is not true, as you see, but we do treat them as young adults and restore them and teach them how to behave because that is our job. And so the referrals increasing is actually a good sign because that means we're actually documenting correctly what's happening and they're getting the support and the restorative they need. Our expulsions, both of them are crimes of violence. So they are mandatory really expulsions, but we try to do everything we can to keep a kid in, you know, a deferred expulsion or a half-day plan or a homebound. But when you get to the certain point that some of these friends got to, we do have to expel. And Sherbin runs that. But our discipline data has been something we as executive team have been very focused on, and Sherbin has really provided the data for us to do the good decision making. And then you heard her say different principals have different freedoms with what they can do with behaviors. If we see your suspensions are out of control without any restorative, you no longer suspend kids without Sherbin's approval because you need some help with talking about what restorative looks like. So we provide different principals different authority based on what that looks like. And, you know, restorative can be hard for teachers to come around to, but we are continuing our work with restorative and we are seeing, you can see the game changer of we kept 800 more kids in school and didn't suspend them. That is huge for our kids to not be sent home. And it's not like they're staying in school and disrupting everyone. Most of these are high schoolers with our Student Success Center. So they're getting counseling, they're getting the tutoring they need, they're getting learning from counselors of how you, instead of being sassy with someone, here's how you could interact nicely with them. And so they're getting those life skills. So when they do reenter the classroom, they're not blowing up again. They're ready to go back.
And the majority, going back to the original report of OE5 from those student surveys, the majority of the students are noticing that students do have consequences, that they are being addressed. So the idea that because there are less out of school suspensions and expulsions that we're not doing anything, our kids have positively said by 80% of the time that there are clear consequences when a student does disrupt the learning environment.
Well, I was just a quick question with the referrals. Do we disaggregate our repeated friends, our friends that, because this, you know, the number could even look better if some of these friends are repeat.
Absolutely. So when we do by school, we do disaggregate down to each individual student. So we can see when one student has 7 referrals or more than 7 referrals sometimes, or if they're a one-time offender and they've received no additional, additional behavior reports, but those are, I am happy to share those with you. They are just very lengthy.
I'm fine. I just thought, you know, if we did that, then in my mind, this number still may be lower. I mean, and
Yeah, it
even
would
though
be.
because of the repeated friend.
Yes, and we do at each school kind of have a repeat offender list when we talk about recidivism with restorative practices. And that's really where we're looking at when those restorative practices aren't working, what does progressive discipline look like, which then leads to the 27 expulsion hearings that I have had over the past 2 years that have really truly only resulted in those 5 expulsions.
Um, when a student is expelled,
Mhm.
is our district still responsible to educate that student, even though they're not permitted on school grounds?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. So we have our homebound tutoring program, and we have several tutors from mostly, I'll just be honest, mostly from Sierra High School, and then also a few from our middle school who do work with our expelled students. These are the same tutors that also work with our homebound program for our medically fragile students. So what happens is if and when a student is expelled, and they are not permitted on campus, they do receive their classes through our online monitored instruction, Edmentum, and they receive tutoring hours up to 6 hours each week with a tutor to support them through that online class. That provision of a tutor is not a requirement of us to provide education, but we do that to ensure that students are still successful because they will come back to us. They are still our students. I make sure to stress that in my hearings, that regardless of what happens, you are a D2 student and we need to make sure you have your credits because you will be returning back to us and our goal is still for you to graduate on time.
Go back to 12.2.
Yes.
That was the combined bullets. And I was kind of curious because you said that the survey, you would go to question 20,
Or OE5, right? Sorry.
yeah.
So OE 5.1.
It's 12 point, yeah.
No.
No. Because those are the ones that were combined.
The ones that were combined, I'm
Uh-huh.
sorry.
So you'll see on, if we go back to OE5, the indicators, there are 4 indicators for compliance, but we only have 3 evidence of compliance. Because bullet 3 and
Okay.
bullet 4 are
Right.
asking, so bullet 3 asks for 6, 8. Bullet 4 asks for 9 through 12. But unfortunately, on the survey, they're not disaggregated by grade level. It's just 6 through 12.
Right. Which was the one that you talked about? You're going to use the other question because it
The
covers it.
safe and
Yes, that one is the, yeah,
Yes,
one moment,
that
let me
one.
find that. So for bullying, that is 12.1 bullet 3.
The big one.
Yes, the big long one.
So if we're going to, I thought I understood you said we were going to focus on behaviors, consequences of behavior
Mhm.
versus bullying behaviors. I'm getting the impression that students don't understand that there is options available to deal with bullying or even what the question is addressing. And so my concern is if you take that bullying component out of there and we talk about bullying so often, then I think it kind of goes away. You know what I'm saying?
I do, yes. And that's where that is just my suggestion to address this specifically about not permitting unruly behaviors. We are open to when we look at presenting the indicators for next year, which I think is later, at looking at even question 20, which asks students if they feel safe reporting bullying. The piece that seems to be tripping students up is whether or not how this question is currently worded or this indicator is currently worded, is that when they report bullying, they participate in a restorative practice. The problem is, correct, if they're not being bullied, they don't have anything to report, and only 52% of students are reporting bullying, even though 79% of them say they feel safe reporting bullying. So while they feel safe, they're still not reporting it.
Just a quick question on that. Based on your experience in all these hearings and everything, do you have a suspicion as to why that is? I'm just curious.
Yes, unfortunately, our students are afraid of being labeled as students that tell adults, and that they want to be able to solve their problems themselves, which is a big reason why teaching students how to solve problems themselves appropriately is a big part of the Student Success Center. Because unfortunately, when students do take it upon themselves to fix some of their interpersonal conflicts, they don't possess the reasonable skills to do it in a non-confrontational or physical matter, which leads to some of those hearings where they very much in a de-escalated reflective moment, which is all part of restorative practices, are able to say, I acted out of character. I understand what I did was incorrect. And if I could go back, I would change it. But I have concerns, or like I have issues with controlling my temper or disrespect. And then we talk through the hearing about, do you have people then that can help support you through that? And if not, are we connected with a mentor? Are you having outside counseling? Those are all part of the expulsion hearing. But really, truly, when it comes down to it, if you ask a student, why didn't they tell us? It's because they did not want to snitch.
If there's no additional comments, we're going to move this on to the consent agenda as well. Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
We are going on to item 6, communicating with the public. It doesn't look like we have any public comment unless they're invisible. So we are moving on to item 7. It is the board consent agenda. 7.1 is approval of minutes from the Board of Education meetings, May 14th, 2026 minutes, work session meeting, April 30th, 2026 minutes, special Board of Education meeting, May 19th, 2026 minutes. And so I just need a recommended motion for approval, please.
Madam Board President, actually, I think this is Corey's thing, but I'm sorry.
You're okay.
I'm sorry. I got excited. Madam Board President, I move forward to accept these meeting minutes. Corey, I should not be secretary. Thank you so much.
Madam President, I move to approve the board consent agenda items as stated.
I second.
Nice try. Motion to approve the minutes as listed by Mr. Williams and second by Ms. Tamayo. All those in favor? Aye. Oh, it's a long night. All right, we are moving on to item 7.2. It is the OE5 learning environment treatment of students by Ms. Nicole Sherburne, Director of Student Support. It is OE5 Learning Environment and Treatment of Students, report dated 6/4/2025. I just need a recommended motion, please. I'm
Madam
sorry,
President, I move
that's
to approve
20.
OE5 and OE12 on the board consent agenda.
I like that.
Second.
Motion to approve board consent agenda as stated by Mr. Williams, second by Frazier. All those in favor? Aye. These are approved. All right, we're going on to item 8. It is the superintendent consent agenda. Personnel comparison report, 2025-2026 month-to-month comparison report, dated 6/4/2026 document. And I just need a motion to approve, please.
Madam President, I move to approve the superintendent consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
Motion to approve the personnel comparison report by Mr. Williams, second by Dr. Pam Robinson. All of those in favor?
Aye.
This is approved. We're going on to item 9. It is monitoring board performance. It is the annual work plan.
You all wanted to discuss the start time of meetings. We also need to identify who is going to be the DAC representative, CDMT representative, and MLO Oversight Committee representative for next year.
Okay, there's a motion before the board to change the meeting time from 6 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. So I'll open for discussion at this point.
I am concerned about changing the time by a half hour earlier. We do have members on this board who are employed that could create a problem with them getting here on time. Number two, I don't know if we've researched this enough to see if that would be a better move for us to move our meeting from 6 to 5:30. So if there's some other concerns, I'd like to hear it.
I'm concerned, just for working folks, for public comment. The earlier we start, the harder it might be for some parents or any members of the public to come and address us. Also, as someone who does work during the day, I appreciate a 6 p.m. start time for our board meetings, as it allows definitely someone who gets off of work to have to come to a board meeting to get here on time. So my concern would be if starting it earlier would possibly inhibit access for the public and also for maybe more onboarding for new school board members.
I can share we didn't do a study or a survey. We have been asked time and time again by schools who have students presenting and by parents, particularly Cameron's parent last time. He told you himself he had to be in bed and do his bath time and his story time and his whatever. So that's where the idea came up, is we've been asked repeatedly by schools, elementary schools, of course, because by the time they get done presenting, they get home at 7:30 or 8. It is past, if they have the bedtime. We can go either way, but I said I would bring it up to you all to decide.
I'd recommend because since I got on the board, we did have a certain duration for school presentations, and they have consistently been longer and longer, and the students have been here late. So we could narrow down the duration again and see if our schools will comply. But I remember we did ask the administration to have their presentations shortened, but they have grown a little bit longer.
We did, we definitely did. And I do remember as a former administrator, we also discussed our questions, being mindful of those. I just know previously we were able to make the 5:30. So I just assumed maybe if we're not having a pre-board or anything like that, we were able to make the 5:30 then, maybe we could. But I don't know. I don't want to interfere with those who work, those board members. And I think if parents feel that their initiative or whatever they want to discuss is important enough, I think they will make, the public will make it. But I also want to ensure with our student board reps, can they make it if they're in activities? I don't know. I don't want them ever to rush and feel, so I could go with either way as well. If the 5:30 doesn't work.
I'm flexible, so I'm just gonna defer to a majority.
Yeah, I'm the same. We can show up at midnight if you want to. I don't care.
Corey will be here till midnight. I'll be in the bed. All right. We'll probably need to take a vote then. So, Ms. April, if you could do I need to have a motion first of all to vote to approve or not approve a change. So, Ms. April, if you could do a roll call vote for us. We're going to vote to approve a change to 5:30 for the start time.
Corey?
Oh, I just asked for a motion. Motion to approve a change.
Not trying it.
Madam President, I move to approve a change to the Board of Education board meeting from 6 PM to 5:30 PM.
Who was the second?
I second.
Okay,
Okay, roll call.
yes,
Corey?
that part.
No.
Janice?
No.
Michelle?
No,
Pam?
No.
Emily?
No.
Motion does not pass.
thank you very much. We will continue on with our 6 o'clock schedule. Right, we're moving on.
I need a DAC, a CDMT, and
I
an
know,
MLO.
that's what
Oh, that's where you're moving on to. Yeah.
I know this.
That's my job.
People want to go home. Okay, I need for volunteers for DAC, CDMT, MLO, and I have DAC.
DAC,
CD.
CDMT, MLO.
Oh, just those three.
Yep.
It might be our bedtime.
Can that exclude me because of my work with legislative?
Absolutely. I would love, I'm just throwing it out there, to be on the MLO.
Madam President, can you say what the MLO stands for again? I'm so sorry.
Mill Levy Override
Bill Levy, all right. Okay, thank
Oversight
you.
Committee.
I was on the DAC this year, so it doesn't matter to me. I'd have been on all of them.
Yeah, I am open to either being on the DAC or the CDMT, sorry.
So just to clarify, as you're signing up for what you want to sign up for, because I want to make sure you know what you're signing up for. Collaborative decision-making team meets 7 times, Shervin. Most are full days, some are half days, and we talk about our agreement of trust and understanding and salaries and benefits. District Accountability Committee meets with Rachel Loffer, and they talk about things in the district, like they look at the calendar, they do talk about AI and what policies and feedback around that. That's with staff, students, and parents. And then mill levy override, I don't want to say it's boring because it's not, but the mill levy is pretty much outlined of what we're spending our money on. So they're meeting like twice a year because we're really just giving updates and making sure we're following what we put out to voters. The bond was a little bit more exciting because there were things being built, but, so those are the 3 things, just so you know the time commitment of what they are. See, they're trying to get you on their committees. They're trying to hustle you.
Marketing.
Okay. So you have snacks?
Yep, it's not. PDMT is good. And if you're not on the committee, you can still go to the committee. Like you just won't be the voting member or the board rep, but you could all still go to DAC.
Yeah.
or the times you could go. It doesn't mean you can't go.
Okay, so
I'll let y'all get first picks. I've been through all the committees, so. DAC most recently.
Yeah, because you were on the deck and,
That was good.
yeah, the most recently. Okay. Um, well, dang, I don't want to follow that. Oh, no, just kidding. Yeah, I would like to attend, I would like to be the CDMT on Wednesdays, so I will attend that during the day and accommodate my work schedule around that.
And I'll have Sherburne send you the schedule now so you can save your dates. Dr. Robinson, if you recall, is going to have a special assignment located at Bricker. So she's going to be very busy at that school. I mean, she can go to any meeting she wants to, but she is going to be at Bricker every week.
Then I'll be DAC again. See you next year.
Oh, wait. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
I wanted y'all to have y'all's picks. Like I said.
All right, let's continue that legacy, Corey.
okay. MLO, yeah. Okay. Fantastic. We are going to be skipping over item 10 and moving on to item 11, action item. Consider, did you have something?
Yes. If there's a question, are you saying that will be in the public discussing this? I'm just saying hypothetically.
That's why.
Yeah, if there's a question, since it's a personnel matter, we really should take the opportunity to convene an executive session. Otherwise, if there are no questions and we're just moving to consider the superintendent's recommendation, we can move on to action item number 11. And there doesn't have to be any discussion. It's just taken for consideration by the board.
Are there any questions regarding this personnel matter?
I have a question, but I'm not sure if I can ask that considering, I'm sorry, I'm just confused.
We have to go to executive.
Yeah, we have to go to this executive session. Okay.
So you do want to go to executive session?
I would like to move to executive session. I'm sorry. I was just confused about that, but yes, I would like to move to executive session so I can ask a further question. Thank you.
Madam President, I move that we convene into executive session pursuant to Colorado Revised Statutes 24-6-402, Section 4, subsection F, to discuss personnel matter related to employee ID 234915.
Second.
Who has been notified of this discussion and pursuant, well, it's the same Colorado Revised Statute, so.
The different section of.
Oh, I
law,
see.
we just
My
have to read it
apologies.
onto the
And
record.
pursuant to Colorado Revised Statute, Statute 24-6-402, subsection 4, subsection B, to confer with the district's legal counsel regarding the superintendent's recommendation concerning that employee. Note, no formal action will be taken. My apologies. That it just doesn't seem like that goes with that. No formal action will be taken in executive session. The board will return to open session to act on the recommendation.
Second.
Okay. All right, recommended motion. And second by, okay, motion by Mr. Williams and second by Ms. Frazier. We are going to be adjourned at this time.
Madam President, could you please announce publicly who will be invited to join the executive session?
Yes, the executive session will be attended by Mr. Corey Williams, Ms. Janice Frazier, Ms. Michelle Wills Hill, Dr. Wendy Berhanzel, Dr. Pamela Robinson, and Ms. Emily Tamayo. And Ms. Tanya Thompson will represent as counsel. Thank you. time now is 8:18 PM, June 4th, 2026. The board is now reconvening our regular board meeting. We're going to item number 11, an action item for personnel. 11.1 is consideration of the superintendent's recommendation for dismissal of probationary teacher employee ID 234915. Mr. Williams, if you would please read for the motion, please.
Madam President, I move to approve the superintendent's recommendation for dismissal of probationary teacher employee ID 234915 pursuant to Colorado Revised Statute 22-63-301, Colorado Revised Statute 22-63-302, and Colorado Revised Statute 22-63-203.
Second.
Motion to approve the dismissal of the probationary teacher, employee ID 234915 by Mr. Williams, second by Ms. Frazier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is approved. We are now at item number 12. And it is, seeing there is no further action to be taken. Mr. Williams, if you could please.
Madam President, with no further business, I move to adjourn Board of Education, work session, and combined meeting.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Williams to adjourn the meeting. Yes, and seconded Ms. Frazier. All those in favor?
Aye.
And good night. We're adjourned.
We got two people.
We got two people.
Rachel, you said.